Good night and Vanakkam everyone, and welcome to our next video, where in this video we will look at different types of food which are considered Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Right? We will try to tie it in to my last video where I talked about fasting and vrat, because based on the vrats that you perform, there are different types of foods that are recommended that one can eat and should eat, and then there are foods that one should not. Now, having discussions with a lot of Hindus, right? And not just a lot of Hindus are not just Hindus that are Shaktas, but also Hindus that of Vaishnava aspect also. Having discussions with them and discussing this particular topic, I have come across that there's a lot of miseducation and there's a lot of misinterpretation also to where foods are concerned and fasting foods in particular are concerned. Sorry about that, right? And you know, there's a lot of things that are not taught and not told to the devotees of God about food and what is recommended and what is not recommended. And in doing so, by not putting this information out there to where different foods are concerned when you're fasting or performing vrat, by not educating the masses, by not educating the Hindu, you are condensed this, you are hindering. This is where the children of God are more or less going to feel the backlash to some extent. Because why? The sadhanas or devotions that they are doing will not reach the limits that they needed to reach. They will not gain or receive the siddhis that they are more or less seeking. Right? They will not find, you know, have that resolution or that resolve to what they are working towards. And it is fasting along with the foods that you eat plays a major factor, not just prohibiting things from your body, but allowing things to be to be eaten, right? These things contribute energy. Food is energy. It is energy. It has Shakti, right? It has Shakti. It has divine divinity in it because it comes from Mother Earth. It comes from Bhumidevi. It comes from the earth. So it is cultivated. Now, there's a lot of also misconception where they talked about when in different texts, the way they would have fastened the words or constructed the paragraphs where they talked about things being fertilized in a particular manner. So people might think things that uses manure or this and that might not be, because may not be good to eat and because it's actually feces from an animal, right? And I will discuss those things in particular also, right? I will discuss all that in this video. Also, I will discuss items that we may think is good to consume. It's sattvic in nature to consume, but in fact, it is rajasic and tamasic in nature. Because why? We were not told or educated that these things are prohibited. And I will show you where they state that they are prohibited. Right? Now, in my discourse, I would like to use the Manusmriti. But you may say, well, Tantra, the Manusmriti is not an authoritative book. It is not something that just take it seriously. Okay, fine. And I can digress to that because, yes, there are aspects of the Manusmriti that that actually contradicts itself, right? And I totally understand that. So let us go to the Purans and them, and let us use one that is more or less profoundly known, which would be the Sri Puran, the Mahashri Puran. Right? We will use that, and then we will go to the Vedas, where it goes in details more to the foods and so forth. So we use those aspects, those particular doctrines. All right. So before we go further, let us look into what is sattvic food. Sattvic food is something that promotes purity of mind, health, strength, peace, calmness. All right, fine. What is Rajasic food? Rajasic food gives motivation and keeps you attach your ego and your emotions. So more or less, those food can make you easily move. If you're not in control of your emotions, and well, you could be easily moved by those type of foods, right? Or consumption of different liquids that is considered Rajasic. Let us look at Tamasic food. Tamasic are things that makes you, that promotes sluggishness, that promotes disease and so forth, right? That is more or less dangerous to you, right? So we have an idea of what these different categories are, but also let us look to what are some of the foods that are considered in each category to be Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic. So let us look at Sattvic, and off the back foot, one will think about vegetables. Sattvic is simple. Vegetables be Sattvic. Fruits are Sattvic because they're supposed to be healthy in nature. It doesn't have animal rennet or something like that, and is not produced with a lot of chemicals and so forth that may be considered Rajasic and Tamasic, because different Purans, like the Vishnu Puran, also give discourses of things not to be eaten that uses a lot of chemicals, right? That it is not necessarily grown in its natural way, or items that is added to fertilize the soil is not beneficial to the body, right? So, and we will stick up in there. We'll come back to that. So let us look or continue. So we're looking at milk, herbal tea, whole grains, fresh juicy fruits, fresh vegetable, honey. All right. We're looking at nuts. We look at different types of beans. All right. Let us stay. Let us go a little further. All right. So we in that aspect, those are sattvic food. But do you know there are vegetables that are not recommended, and things that we consume in the world, not just in Trinidad, but in the world, that is considered radicalism, because in the Shiv Puran, the Manusmriti, the Vishnu Puran, right, and even the Aduveda, speaks about items that are fermented, things that are fermented, we are not to eat. What are things fermented? Things are taken from their raw state and reconstituted, cooked and aged in that aspect. That that is aged to change from one consistency or one aspect to another. So what are some of foods? Because the first thing you'll think about fermented, you will think about alcohol. Yes, alcohol would be, depending on the degree, be it wine or beer or whatever, that would be considered rather symptomatic. So where food is concerned, right, what is fermented? Right? One popular thing that we do consume in Trinidad is soya chunks. Soya chunks comes from the soya bean. Right? Soya bean is broken down, it is boiled, it is mashed, and it is fermented to get it is fermented to create that aspect, that spongy aspect. Further more into what soybean also, our next thing that we do consume when we are fasting and consider to be thing, because it's made from a vegetable product, right? It's made from a plant, is tofu. Tofu is also soya still. It's from the soya bean seed, right? So those two things are fermented. Soya chunks is fermented, and tofu, right? The Sri Puran speaks against it, that is not to be consumed when you're doing the glories of of Mahadev and so forth. The Sri Puran states about it. The Manusmriti says about it. And then the other Veda speaks about it also. Right? So that is something that we need to consider. If someone is not fasting, you're a vegetarian, or you're a non-vegetarian, and you're not fasting for, right? You're not fasting for a particular aspect of worship, that is like Naratam, Shivatri, Ganesu stuff or so forth, the Pavli and such, right? Hanuman Jayanti and such. You're not fasting for those things. You're fine. Go ahead. You can consume because you're not doing a ritual. But if you are going to do a ritual, if you're fasting 21 days, 7 days to go, even if you're fasting, that some temples tell you that you have to fast at least 72 hours, which is actually 3 days in advance before coming to temple. A lot of temples will tell you that. Some Vaishnava temples, most Shakti temples will tell you, will give you that that 72 hours of fasting before coming, whatever, if you want to make little fruits and so forth, offerings, whatever, if you have a vrat, a strict sadhana vrat, then you have to fast a little more coming doing to go doing your offerings or whatever. All right. There it is. If you consume these things, then you have broken your fast. You have broken your vrat because you're consuming things that is not recommended. Now, yes, I will go to the far that the vrat that you're doing may not say that it is prohibited in an aspect, but yet it doesn't state that it is allowed in the sadhana that you're doing. Right? So tofu and soya chunks, fermented items in doing Shivatri or anything from Mahadevan aspect, that is prohibited. And even also you have in the Manusrimati whatever that echoes in general terms that it is. So it's changes. All right. Let us look also now. Let us look at the next thing. Fungus. Right? In Manusrimati, the Ayurveda, the Shipuran, talks about fungus. What are fungus? Funguses are mushrooms in particular. All aspect of mushrooms, every single portobello, porcini, um, button mushrooms, right? All these shiitake mushrooms, whatever, right? These are funguses, and these are prohibited, right? These are prohibited because why? They grow on the dead of other things. A tree that is dying, that has no more life in it whatsoever, that has fallen and whatever, and more or less moss and whatever, mushroom grows about. Yes, right, it grows and it grows in that whatever. So it is considered Tamasic and Rajasic. It is not considered Sattvic. So we have to be very careful when we are fasting for certain things or fasting in whole that we don't consume things that is prohibited, and funguses are prohibited. I see many people, and I am not, no, understand, I'm not trying to bash anyone here, anyone in particular, but I'm just trying to make awareness is that when you have people doing veggie Q, when they're doing veggie Q or they're doing, be it Chinese styles or whatever, look at the ingredients they're using because most like you think Tamasic and Sattvic is meat. You're thinking the seasoning, the onion, the garlic. Yes, and you're correct to that aspect. But you also have to consider the other things that is considered Tamasic and Rajasic in nature, which are different types of food. So then again, we have, right, as I said, we talked about some fermented items, which are more or less we have fermented soybean products. Also, we have to be careful and consider read the packages when you are going to use these things, or where did the person that who is selling the food selling food that has these items, the packages that the items these are common, which state these things are prepared in a place where egg and egg byproducts are made. Please consider that. Also, it is made that is like, and I'm not bashing, it's like going to a place that sells chicken, sell meat, and you're buying vegetables. You're not going to have vegetables, a pure vegetable shed. That's like you're going to a place that sells meat products, meat being chopped, cooked, clean, washed, everything, and you're going there, and the person is taking the items. They're just washing their hands with water or this that. So you're going in a more or less unconducive place to buy products that you need for sattvic nature or pure nature. Consider that. Right? So we talked about funguses, which is all mushrooms and such. Right? Let us talk about also, right? Let us go to where vegetables are concerned. This is going to blow a lot of people. This is going to blow a lot of people. It is more or less recommended that you do not eat things that are bitter in nature. Vegetables that are bitter in nature are considered rasic and tamasic. One will be bitter gourd. Most people will consider bitter gourd to be Karaili. Don't get me wrong, I am a Karaili fan. I love my fried Karaili and dal rice. but when I'm fasting, I don't consume it. Right? When I'm actually not doing a ritual or something, I don't consume it. Another item would be bygone, which is kind of, when you read the Mashi Puran and whatever, you read the Manusrimati, you come across a word called brinjal. Brinjal is actually bygone. When you translate it, you'll see it translated to eggplant. Eggplant is known as bygone in the Caribbean, or more or less in Trinidad. So you have to be considerate of that also. Now, people might say, well, Tantra child, how bygone? If bygone is not prepared and cooked in a particular manner slowly, as in if you're frying it or however, and it does not bring out the natural sugars to be caramelized to sweeten it by itself, it is bitter. It is bitter. Likewise, also Karali. If Karali is fried very slowly on a low heat to get that crispy, to draw the moisture and everything, the bitterness, it is sweet in nature. It is nice. It dissipates the bitterness, whatever, and it's consumable. Right? It is consumable. So it have that. So bitter items are not just really just so much just the seasoning, the onion, the pepper, and the garlic, and the salt. They are vegetables also. So we mentioned bygone, we mentioned bitter gourd, right? There it is, based on different vrats. Now, one in particular for Shiv Puran, from the Shiv Puran, when you're listening to, when you're going to prepare for the glories of Mahadev. Now, his vrats are very strict, very strict. From those who would read it from the Mashifan, the vrats that you perform, that it is recommended to gain siddhi, because we all know Mahadev is the master of tests. He's the father of all, and he tests you ultimate. So there it is, he would have you suffer yourself in a sense, meaning nothing sweet, too, nothing exceedingly sweet. So you're looking at nothing like honeydew watermelons or regular watermelons, nothing with excessive sugar in it naturally. So watermelons, pineapples, whatever. So they talk about that. Even gods talk about juices of carrot, the juice of a carrot. Right? So in Shiv Puran, it has that. I don't think I came across any other things of that particular nature from any other Puran, if I'm recollecting my memory is correct. No, I didn't. I haven't. Even in Manshroom, we didn't have that. Right? So you have those items. Right? Now, earlier did I mention where, like in the Vishnu Puran, it would state that, you know, you're not to consume vegetables that might be allowed to be eaten. That is allowed to be eaten. That is considered sattvic. You're not allowed to eat it if it is more or less, you know, if chemicals and fertilizers in this aspect is prohibited in the manner that it is. Okay, and let's look into that. People might think, okay, well, feces, as what we may call animal feces, be it cow. Cow is good. Right? Cow manure is good because there's a lot of things we use from the cow. The cow, right? We use, okay, well, most like we use the milk to make cheese, we use the milk to make butter, to make ghee, and so forth. And in these things, we use it when making prasadam and making offerings. So, you know, that kind of thing. There's not really much for those who, there's not really anything chemical wise much that goes in to those things being made and to be given to the cow that hinders it. So the manure or the fertilizer that comes from the cow dung is organic in its aspect because it is not actually tainted in any form or fashion. Horse manure or chicken manure, that is prohibited, and it is given in the Manusrimati. I believe I came across it in an aspect of the Vishnu Puran. One aspect of Vishnu Puran, I will pull that up and post it up. That like horse manure and chicken manure is prohibited because of its nature. Because you can put cow manure right up very close in vicinity to a plant and it will not kill it if you don't over drown it in the manure. While chicken manure or horse manure, because of the chemicals and the different types of things given to the animal to feed on, to live in this particular manner for the products that it is producing eggs and whatever and so forth, and that these animals for moving purposes and whatever, our horses for moving, for running, whatever, how they are brought up, their manure is impregnated with a lot of chemicals. So that is why when you use you're using the manure from from these animals, it has to be placed at least a foot away, around a foot away from the plant and around in that diameter also. And it has to where it will break down gradually into the soil and come towards the root. Because if it is put very close in vicinity, it will, because of the heat it emits from the chemicals and everything that is in it, it will kill the plant and it will dry the plant up. It will burn it. It will burn. It will melt the plant. And I think a lot of us have paid that price with with peas and leafy things like pak choy and so forth, and even lettuce. So you have those things, and we have to be considerate of that. So we have to understand that manure in itself, that type of fertilizer, which animal that is allowed. If it is from a cow, if it is from a cow, if it is from cattle, from cow itself, yes, right? Because a farmer will not give a cow a lot of different chemicals in their feed or what they eat to hinder the milk, nor hinder anything else. Because why? There's a lot of products from the animal that can be retailed back. And sadly enough, yes, the meat itself too, right? While the chemicals, right, that is given to feed chickens to grow faster, bigger, fatter, whatever, these enhancement chemicals are in the feces that turns into manure, and it also affects. Yes, it will help the plants to grow, but it is prohibited to eat plants of fertilization of those particular items. So if you use those particular, or anybody using fertilizer, now you may state and ask, how is it possible one can do? You have to ask. And if you are, and I'm not saying, and to forgive me what I'm putting here, I'm not saying that people are not practicing it, but for those who consider themselves to be true Hindus or good Hindus and wants to practice that aspect, to walk that straight and narrow road, these are the things you have to consider. These are the things you have to understand. And these are the things that we are not being taught. I do not know the reasons why. I'm not going to cast judgment on any Pujari, Pandit, Pujaran, Pandita, Guru. I'm not going to cast judgment on or make any asinine, assumptions to why this information is not put out there. I don't know. Maybe some of them really don't know. They haven't read that much, or they may find, okay, something of that, oh, that pundit might be too strict, he's too this and whatever. But at the end of the day, this is your call. This is your calling, and this is the information you have to give out there, and you have to put it out there because you are looked up at someone with a mantle, a title to educate, right? To uplift to lift a chela, a devotee, a student, a child from one level to the next level of spirituality. So you have that aspect. So we look at manuals and so forth and such. All right. Now, let us look into Rajasic food. So we did Sattvic food, and I kind of rounded off to much of the important thing that one should consider. All right. So let us look also at Rajasic food that attaches to emotions. So there are alcohol in different degrees, different percentages that would affect you to where your passion is concerned. So it triggers emotions like anger, anxiety, and whatever this and that and so on, depending on a situation. That triggers emotions. So you have that. Or you also have coffee, black tea, right? You have chicken because of the chemicals in the chicken, the eggs also, what is a product of the eggs, of the thing, of the chicken. You have onion, garlic, You have dark lentils, you have um, spicy foods, you have chocolate, you have salt. So you have these particular items are considered right. Rajasic food that gives motivation, that keeps attached to your ego and create desires and so forth. So based on your situation, it triggers a chemical reaction in your brain. Therefore, in your brain, it triggers your physical action, which is your body, to react. So someone consuming, different types of food that contribute that promotes emotions, promotes those kind of things, emotions and attachment. It will trigger you in a particular manner to act in a particular manner. Where not should may not be Sattvic in nature. All right, you have now. Let's look at Tamasic food. Tamasic food is pure alcohol. So we're looking at scotch, rum. We're looking at fast food, fried food, frozen foods, canned, stale foods, right? Tobacco, soda, things with excessive sweetness, excessive salt, excessive not sweet, excessive sugars, artificial sugars, which promotes diseases and slows the body down. You're looking at different types of red meat, which is like beef, as in cow, horse meat, these type of things, right? When now let us look at something that I didn't touch on yet, and a lot of people might say that it's contradicting and it's difficult. And I totally understand where people are at, what the statement I'm going to make. It talks about one when fasting and performing vrats and whatever, one should not eat reheated food or stale food, meaning the food that is cooked today can be eaten and you're good. But once it goes into the next day, from today to like tomorrow, that's considered stale food. It's no longer pure, it's not freshly cooked. And if you reheat it because it's placed in the fridge and it's reheated, that's considered reheated food. So that's also considered tamasic in nature and rajasic in nature. Yes, it's vegetarian food. Now, I do understand, again, that for a lot of people, because of work issues, families, and a lot of different situations beyond control, it's easier to, when they're home, make a larger meal and package food for the next 2 days after, work-wise, for lunch, whatever. And I totally get that because, I work and I work a lot of difficult hours and it is difficult. It is difficult. What I would advise, and I'm not saying that you're wrong in doing what you're doing, there's a circumstance for it, right? There is what I would do recommend is that when you're in these situations, please try your best. When you're fasting in this aspect, please try your best to put your best foot forward and go along certain guidelines. Because why? We all want to gain the cities of our sadness. We all want that. We all want that that blessing. We all want that connection to God, then getting closer to God and that divinity in that aspect. No matter who we serve, Krishna, Sai Baba, Lord Vishnu, Mahadev, the Deviant had different forms, whoever it is, who, whatever aspect of a Shivat, Shivat, Shakta, Vishnava. We all want to gain ourselves. We don't want to be blocked, especially knowing that we ourselves are blocking ourselves, but we are blocking ourselves because we are not educated. And the person or persons that we have more or less given allowances and respect to guide us and has not taught us that. Because when we do not eat properly, when we do not have a constructive diet, when we don't eat when we don't eat to be, you know, eat to be healthy and don't overeat, right? Eat to be full, not to overeat and be bloated and whatever. When we do not cultivate proper eating habits, proper diet, when we do not cultivate proper aspects of life where food are concerned and don't give reverence to what is and what is not, we are more or less starting wrong from the get-go. We are starting wrong from the get-go one time, and we are hindering ourselves. This is why, as I said, I'm not contradicting any pundit. I'm not going to contradict any pujari, guru, pandita, whatever. Right? The individuals that I have spoken for the last 2 weeks, that is why I didn't post this video yet, because I was doing some research. The people that I have spoken who are Shaktas, who were Vaishnavas, I didn't ask them who their pundit was. I didn't ask them who their guru was and so forth. I didn't ask who was their godfather and whoever, or spiritual leader. I didn't ask who it was. I also pleaded with them. If you do see my video, I told them when it is going to be done and when it will be posted. When you do watch my video and you may learn certain things of it and you have questions, ask me, message me, call me, and I will try to explain, do a live, do a next video, whatever, to elaborate more. You learn something, fine. If the person doesn't teaches you this, they have their reasons. Please try your best not to molest, try to confront them in a hasty manner. If you want to ask a question like Babs, so by so. I came across information that is this true or not? And there within their answers, you will know if they knew before or they didn't. And generally, some people do not know. It is not out of ignorance, they're not teaching it, because generally they do not know. Not every pundit, every pujari, pandita, whatever, have read all the Vedas, has read countless Purans, have read the different tantras or the agamas and whatever and so forth, different doctrines. Based on what they're going to teach, they will go towards, and who taught them, who was their tutor, who was their guru and whatever. They would have more or less, actually, I would say, be taught within certain doctrines. Now, they may go outside of those doctrines to expand their knowledge if they choose to. Some choose to stay within, and you cannot. This is why when I did the video, Vaishnava versus Shakta versus Shivit, we acknowledged and we saw where different doctrines within Hinduism are for Vaishnava, for Shivit, and for Shakta, where we may acknowledge different doctrines from the others, but it don't govern what we may be. Likewise, our next person, they may acknowledge someone else's doctrines, but it doesn't govern them. Meaning, Shakta will acknowledge the Ramayana, the Gita, and so forth, but it does not fully. We may utilize certain aspects of it, but it does not fully govern how we perform our vrats, our sadhanas, and so forth, and our devotions and our offerings. Like same thing for Vaishnava. They will acknowledge the Devi Puran, the Kalika Puran in their discourses now, because we have a lot of Vaishnava temples that are doing Kali worship. They're not doing it from the Shakta aspect, they're doing it from the Vaishnava aspect, because Ma is recorded in that aspect. Ma is there. She is mentioned in the Markandeya Puran. She is mentioned in the Devi Mahatam. She's mentioned there, right? So they're doing that. They're actually doing discourses about Ma and so forth, right? So that is for Kalajanti and so forth. You will have now you're seeing murtis of Ma in Vaishnava temples, and they're trying to bring everything together. And blessed are they who are doing it. Honestly, blessed are they, because why? They're promoting the Devi. They're promoting her from the Vaishnava aspect. There are some who are incorporating certain Shakti aspect of it, right? Where the offering of the coconuts and so forth are concerned. Perfect, beautiful. More power to you that you're doing that, right? So, right, as I say again, they may not necessarily know. I'm not promoting that I know more than anybody else. I just know what I know and what I could promote. If someone could add to what I am saying here, perfect, beautiful. Right? Perfect, beautiful. If you can debunk it also, even more power to you. I will take down my video. But what I have given you here is from what I have read from the Manusmriti, from the Vishnu Puran, from the Mahashri Puran, from the Advaita, and different tantras. Different tantras, which is known also as the agamas and them. Right? Because all different aspects, Shivit, Vaishnava, and Shakta actually have agamas. They have different tantras that gives them doctrines and different things for procedures where they mention the different types of not just the like the Agni Puran and the Navad Puran, which are very much detailed in different types of ruts when you're doing different aspects of worship and so forth and doing different things. All right. So um, this is why I end my video for this video of Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic food. Right. So I hope that I have enlightened you about that aspect of different types of food. To recollect here, Sattvic food are things that has of balance, harmony, positivity, clarity, light, cleanness. So these are like vegetables, greens, and so forth. But also remembering, right? So they don't you not remember, okay, you don't eat fungus, mushrooms, soya products, which is soya, that is tofu, or soya chunks. These are fermented items and whatever. They are different vegetables that are still considered to be Tamasic and Rajasic. These are naturally bitter in nature. So we have like bitter gourd, as in that scarili that we make on in Trinidad, brinjal, which we know as bygone, and so forth. Sattvic aspect of food is food that is cooked freshly every day and not reheated the next day and so forth. No, no, it's still food. Rajasic food that is considered movement, energy, excitement, passion, desire, agitation, anxiety, egotism. These are like coffee, onion, garlic, seasoning, different highly citrusy juices, chocolate, salts, different alcohols in different degrees, different aspects. Not pure liquor. Then you have tamasic, which is inactivity, apathy. You have negativity, dullness, darkness, delusion, depression, ignorance. So these are like red meats. This is beef. This is horse meat. You have fast food, fried food, frozen food, canned stale food, refined sugars, tobacco, sodas, excessive sugars, whatever. So we see also in the Shipuran where they talked about not consuming things with excessive sugars in them. Watermelon has a lot of sugar. Has sugar is sweet. Watermelon is sweet. So not when you're doing cheap run, he doesn't want you to have too much sugar that way. Even though you offer him sugar in, in his devotion, his vrots are very strict in nature. So you ought to understand that too. So you see where the pros and cons are. And I hope this video enlightens you how to structure your vrat if you're doing vrats and you're doing sadhanas, how you may be able to structure how you want to do something. All right. I hope this would enlighten you in that. It helps you to define where you would have made mistakes, point out where you would have made mistakes by consuming different foods. Whenever, be careful when people are selling, when you are fasting, and they are promoting, selling, doing, you know, different, doing selling food, vegetarian food, or at least it's supposed to be vegetarian food, and they're doing it for a good cause, but if you cannot consume it, you cannot consume it because it's going to hinder your vrat, it is hindering your sadhana because you're eating something that is prohibited. So please be careful. Understand also that when you're buying these byproducts, as in soy chunks and tofu products, these tofu byproducts, these products really packages, these products are made in establishments where eggs and eggs byproducts are made also. I mean, cakes and other whatever stuff, other things are made like waffles and whatever this and that, egg waffles, whatever. Because have egg reservation, but have egg waffles. So you have to be considerate of that also, so you do not hinder yourself when you are performing a vrat. So once again, I want to thank everyone for allowing me this time to teach about Sattvic food, Rajasic, Tamasic food, and so forth. If there's any question, please ask. I will try to my best to do videos for them, alright, and so forth. If there's any particular topics that you want me to do on, please inbox me and I will see if I can get to do them. I'm looking at doing some more lives on Facebook to discuss different topics and different things to kind of break down on the videos I'm doing. So I just want to wish everybody a great night, a blessed night, and Vanakam Jai Sitaram. Good night, everyone.